If you're running service business between 10 and 50K a month and you are trying to reach 100K a month, I want you to really focus on fixing currently what's happening inside of your business. Because if you don't fix what I'm about to share, you will waste months, maybe even years, working on the wrong things while your competitors will continue actually growing. Currently, what's happening is that most founders think scaling requires of having more leads. More leads will lead to more sales and expansion. More ads, more team, more closers, more appointment setters, more software, more hustle, more subscriptions. But in reality, actually doesn't. You see, every stage of a business has completely different bottleneck. And the biggest mistake I see most founders currently are making is they're solving tomorrow's problems before solving today's problems. So in today's video, I'm going to actually show you exactly how I would build and scale a service business all the way from 10K to 100K per month if I had to start over again. I'll walk you through the priorities, systems, hires, KPIs, and frameworks I would focus on at every stage. By end of this entire video, you will know exactly what your business should be focusing on right now, and just as importantly, what you should be actually ignoring. I want you to stay until the end of this video because the stage 4 is where most businesses completely fall apart. You see, most founders think that scaling looks like this. It's in an actual straight line. You get to 10K, then you get to 20, 50, and 100K. It's just straight line. But in reality, it doesn't actually look like this. In reality, at each given stage, you are solving completely different bottleneck. The bottleneck that you solve at 20K is not going to be exactly the same bottleneck at 30, 40, 50K. Each financial level requires a completely different solving capabilities to solve a different bottleneck. And so once you solve different bottleneck, you get to the next level. And guess what? At a different level, you will have a completely different bottleneck. And it doesn't matter what level you are, always a new level in the business will present a new obstacle, which is a new bottleneck. Even if you are Jeff Bezos and you are currently in Amazon, you're running the company Amazon. So you will have completely different bottleneck currently. It doesn't matter what company, what revenue, how big is the team, you always have a bottleneck. So scaling is really about solving a different bottleneck at every stage. Every revenue level asks a different question. If you answer the wrong question, you stay stuck. So in this video, I will actually show you exactly how to build a business from 10K all the way to 100K using the same methodology I use inside of my own business. So the framework is like this. You go from demand to sales to operation to actual leadership. This is called the scaling actual pyramid. First you generate demand, then you generate sales, then you generate operations, and then you move on to leadership. So the most important thing that really accumulates the starting stage of growth in any business is demand. Then once you have demand, we need to fix the next thing to make sure that we can actually capitalize and leverage the actual opportunities, which is sales. And then making sure that once we have demand and sales, we need to make sure that we can keep the money in the actual business so we don't lose the money. So that means we need to make sure that the delivery is on the point as well. At every stage builds on the actual previous stage. So every stage is building on to the previous stage, okay? If your foundation is really weak, the entire business becomes unstable. So I want to start with the stage actual 1. So stage 1 is where you are from 10 all the way to 20K. The goal here is to find a product market fit. So this is where you really need to find a scalable offer, an offer that you can sell again and again and again and again. I don't think about scaling, think about actual certainty here. You need proof. Can I repeatedly sell the same offer? And that's really a big difference also. An offer that can be sold all the time can be scaled to millions of dollars. An offer that is not being really, cannot be sold is really hard to actually scale, okay? So you need to find an actual what's called a market fit offer that can be actually scaled. So priority 1 is here, one niche. Trying to serve to everyone means you will serve to no one. And I see this a lot of times with a lot of coaches, consultants, agencies, owners, and service businesses that sometimes they feel like I'm going to be missing a lot of opportunities if I only focus on one audience. But the goal here is not to serve everybody. It's to serve one specific audience, and then later on, once you have already a good offer, you can scale it with that one audience, then you can broaden the audience up, and that's when you can scale even more. But the goal here is trying to serve one specific audience, not to everyone. Because once you try to serve to everyone, you serve to absolutely no one. The framework is one market, one problem, one outcome, one message. So example is this. High-ticket service businesses need predictable clients, scale to 100K, predictable client acquisition architecture. That's what we focus on, okay? The narrower your actual positioning is, the easier your marketing becomes. Priority number 2 is one offer. Don't build an agency menu that we have different type of offers. Build one transformational actual offer. So the framework would be one problem, one promise, one process, one proof, and one price. Your offer should answer, who is this for? What result do they actually get? And how quickly do they get it? And why should they trust you? Then we move into priority number 3, which is one acquisition channel. Don't master 6. I see a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to start a blog, I'm going to start a podcast, and the next thing we're going to do is also generate content on Instagram, and I also want to do an email, and then after an email, I also want to run ads, and after an ads, I want to run... First, you need to master 1. Once you can predictably get leads, get appointments, get sales from one acquisition channel, you should then only diversify and move on to the second. You need to have one that's really mastered. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. So we could have cold email, positive replies, appointments, sales calls, and clients. So that basically looks like this. You can use a platform called Apollo. You can generate cold leads. So basically you have leads generated. From those leads, then you can also verify, make sure that the contact information is good. You can also use LinkedIn Sales Navigator to enrich the data. Then you use the cold email platform like Instantly to send out emails. Then you're tracking your KPIs like positive replies and everything. You're having conversations. You convert those conversations into appointments. Those appointments become sales calls. Those sales calls become actual clients or revenue generated in the business. Or you could have something more simpler. You can use like LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You can connect, build DM conversations, set appointments, sales calls, and convert them into actual clients. Or if you really want, this is a long-term strategy. This is what currently I'm doing, is you have your own YouTube channel. And on your YouTube channel, you're building like content, you're building authority, then you can send them to a lead magnet, through the application form, on the sales call, convert them into actual client. But here the goal is to master 1 and to absolutely ignore everything else. Because usually what I see is people don't give enough time for one thing to actually work. And so what ends up happening is it's not enough time given to one platform or one strategy to actually see the results. And so usually what ends up happening is the coach, the consultant, the agency owner, the service business, they tried something, it didn't work, they jump on to the next, and they consistently are jumping without actually seeing the results. You need to give enough time to actually see results. So to see the results, you need to also track KPIs, because once you track KPIs, once you track numbers, you can see where the numbers are and how you can actually improve. Usually the big problem is that nobody's actually monitoring or reviewing the KPIs. And that's really a big problem because you don't know how you can actually improve. So KPIs, appointments, show rate, close rate, cash collected, nothing else really matters at that stage. And again, only master 1. If you're currently at 10K, I would not touch ads because you don't have a proven offer that actually can be scalable. You'll be just burning money. What I would do at that point is actually just use one strategy, okay? Stage 2, 20 to 50K. Now demand exists, so that means you already are selling your offer. Your offer is sellable. You have a market fit as well. Now, I don't know how scalable the offer is, but your offer has been proven to actually be fitted for your specific market audience, okay? So the problem now is consistency. So priority 1 is appointment setting. So the framework is lead list, outreach. So that means your cold email, instantly could be conversations, qualification, appointment, and sales calls. Your job is no longer finding time. Your job is creating predictable actual calendar, okay? At this stage, 20 to 50K, we want to repeat predictability. Priority 2 is sales process. Every call should look identical. Framework, discovery, diagnosis, vision, offer, objections, commitment. Not let's just see where the conversation goes. Sales should become really predictable. You should have an actual sales script already. You should already know how to handle objections, how to really understand the buyer's psychology when they actually jump in a call, how to move the prospects through actual different stages on the actual sales call itself. You need to have a process. If you don't have a process, your biggest thing is that you will be losing a lot of opportunities. You will be losing a lot of revenue. Priority number 3 is SOP, so that means system operational procedures. If something happens twice, you need to actually document it, okay? The framework is this. You have a task, you document it, record it, test, improve, and delegate. Because sometimes the biggest thing is we're trying to get somebody into the actual business, and what ends up happening, we get them, but they don't even know what they need to really be doing currently in the business. And it's only because there's not an actual proven process that we can place somebody in for them to actually execute. So a couple examples: client onboarding, sales follow-up, proposals, reporting, content, lead generation. Everything becomes repeatable. If you have a client onboarding, you should have templates and show exactly how it happens. Sales follow-up should have templates, should have copy, should have everything. Proposals, everything has to be documented. In that way, when somebody is actually placed in the process, they can execute at the highest performance. So KPIs to track here is appointment rate, show rate, close rate, delivery time, and client satisfaction. Moving on to stage number 3, which is 50 to 100K. Now you're no longer building an actual business, you're building an organization. So priority number 1 is here, team. Don't hire because you're overwhelmed, hire because documented systems exist. Usually the biggest problem I see is somebody hires, they don't have the systems, don't have the process, don't have the training, they just hire somebody, and now they're operating in a much bigger chaos because that person is also confused of what actually needs to be done. So they're consistently going back to you with questions and taking the time from what actually matters is growing the company, okay? So don't hire because you're overwhelmed, hire because you have documented systems existing. So framework is identify a bottleneck, document SOPs, so that means system operational processes, then you hire, you train them in the SOP itself, you measure their actual performance, and you then can automatically improve. Whatever gets measured gets improved, what doesn't get measured cannot get improved. Typical hires here would be appointment setter, project manager, operations assistant, client success, and media buyer. Priority number 2 is accountability. So this is a framework. Goal, KPI, owner, deadline, weekly review. For every goal, you need a KPI. For every KPI, you need to have an owner that owns that specific task. Then for every owner, you need to have a deadline so you know exactly how things are moving, and then you have a weekly review to see how good they actually are performing. To give an example, let's say you have 30 qualified appointments, you have appointment setter, they have 30 days, weekly KPI meeting, every outcome has an actual owner. If an outcome doesn't have an owner, you will always have problems. You will always miss deadlines, you will always will not know what's happening, how you can improve things. You need to have owner for absolutely everything. If you have 5 people, don't just say, hey, all 5 of you figured it out. No, put one person on there. Priority number 3 is reporting. So this is framework. Demand, conversion, delivery, financials, and leadership. Every Monday review leads, appointments, show rate, close rate, revenue, retention, capacity, and cash flow. This is no guessing. This is actually reporting when you report and understand the data that's coming in. And then based on the data that's coming in, you can start adjusting, making better decisions. Then you can look for different hires. You can see where the money has to go, how you can expand, and how you can actually grow, okay? Priority number 4 is KPIs. Every department has a scoreboard. If you have marketing department, sales department, operations, client success, finance, doesn't matter. People don't improve what isn't measured. I already said that. So it's important that they have KPIs. At stage 4, we are moving into 100K plus. This is where founders think they are scaling, but in reality, they are learning actual leadership, managing people, understanding how you can become a better leader, what processes you need, what thinking process you need, decision-making systems. All of that becomes into the stage 4, which is the leadership as well, okay? Priority number 1 is leadership. So stop asking, what do I need to do? And you need to start asking, who should own this? So at this stage, you're not jumping in and doing everything. You are placing people for certain actual projects. And those people become responsible for certain projects. Those projects are being measured by KPIs. Those KPIs are given to one single person. That single person is reporting. And then what end of the day is happening, you are having all of these reports. At that 100K plus, you don't need strategic director, but you're having these all reports. At those reports, then you can start slowly start planning and forecasting for future. Now it's at the bigger levels, you would have all those reports coming to an actual strategic director. And that strategic director will then be guiding, and then he will answer to you. And everybody else will answer to him. Or you could have an actual manager that manages everything as well, okay? So, priority number 2 is management systems. So framework here is weekly meetings, KPI reviews, decisions, priorities, and accountability. Every week, no exceptions. Because if you miss 1 week, let's say we have a problem this week, you miss that meeting, you miss that weekly review, what ends up happening, that same problem is happening into the next week. And now that problem is actually delayed. And then with that problem, there could be a second problem because that first problem was not actually stopped. So it's important that you have them actually weekly so you can actually track and have hands-on. Period number 3 is predictable client acquisition architecture. Okay, so the example here is you could have meta ads, VSL, application, thank you page, confirmation video, setter call, sales call, client onboarding, delivery, referral. Okay, you need to have predictable client acquisition at this stage consistently, and at 100K plus, I'm already running ads. Okay, or you could have YouTube, lead magnet, email nurture, application, sales call, client referral, or cold email, positive reply. So like we could use like instantly, Polo, generate leads, or even enrich the data with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, appointment, sales call, and client. Okay, the acquisition channel really changes. The architecture stays the same, but what you need is you need something that you can put all of. You basically have built a funnel that now you're running ads and you consistently can actually manage how much money is going out and how much money is coming in. So like your ROI, okay? The big lesson is this here. Most founders try to scale revenue. Successful founders scale actual systems that give them the actual revenue. Don't chase the money, build a system that gets you the actual money. The founder making 10K asks, how do I get another client? And the founder making 100K a month asks, how do I build a machine that gets clients every single week without depending on me? That's a shift happening, okay? So a quick recap. So at stage 1, 10 to 20K, one market, one offer, one acquisition channel. Not 6, no blogs, no content, no podcast, simple one. In the best case scenario, if you're 10K currently sitting, like DMs. Let's just do DMs. Let's just get appointment setter to help me to do that as well. Stage 2 is 20 to 50K. Appointment setting, sales process, and SOPs, system operation processes. At stage 3, 50 to 100K, we're going to team, accountability, reporting, and KPIs. Stage 4, we have 100K plus. That's leadership, management, predictable client acquisition, architecture. Every business has a bottleneck. You have to understand that. At every single level, you will have a bottleneck. The mistake isn't having one. The mistake is solving the wrong bottleneck. So instead of like, let's say you're getting a lot of leads and you're not good at sales, and so what you're thinking like you need more leads, but the problem is actually sales. So what ends up happening sometimes, somebody just say we need more leads. So now you're focusing on the wrong actual bottleneck. Okay. So the mastery in the business is to identify the one bottleneck that's actually limiting the business growth, solving that and moving on to the next bottleneck. Build the systems your business actually needs today, not tomorrow. Then earn the right to move to the next actual stage. That's how business scale from 10 to 100K a month. Before you leave, I want to give you something really special. It took me years of failures, mistakes, lessons, client work, and real-world experience to understand what actually builds a successful business. And no, not the theory type, not the social media advice, not some vague advice I got from a book, but real actual fundamentals. The things that create predictable growth, strong leadership, scalable systems, and long-term success. So I condensed everything into a single scaling actual roadmap. It shows you exactly what to focus on at every stage of growth, so you stop guessing and start building with actual clarity inside of your business. If you want it, click the Instagram link. It's down below in the description, and DM me the word roadmap, and I will send it to you over personally. And remember this, business don't grow because founders work really hard at it or because you have to put in more hours. They grow because founders focus on the right things at the right time, at the right stage. See you in my next video.